So we welcome you to the Emzone Radical Cup Canada presented by Michelin. I'm Dave Bradley. Joined with me is Adam Ross as the cars are rolling here. Leaving pit lane on to turn number 10, and we'll be headed out onto the front chute as part of the Victoria Day SpeedFest here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. It's a timed event for the Emzone Radical Cup Canada presented by Michelin, and it is going to be a challenging event because we did have a bit of a rain shower pass through earlier, but the track is mostly dry, as we've been mentioning earlier today.
Track is mostly dry. We've got two races going on within one race. Of course, we got the Masters class, which was a great battle yesterday. We saw a lead change there. Anytime you have a lead change, you've had a pretty good race. And, of course, the overall. So two races for us to watch for. That's going to be fun. And track conditions, they're just driving down into turn number 2. Now, once they get to turn 4, we're going to see the oil dry. And I'm curious if they're going to drive through it or if they're going to drive around it.
Yeah, one of the previous classes has laid down some oil in turn number 4, so that will require a couple passes through to sort of dust that off a little bit more. The track crew has done a great job at cleaning things up and making sure that the facility is ready for these Emzone Radical Cup Canada presented by Michelin race cars. And if you've never seen these cars, you're looking at them going, well, they're prototypes, and they are very much smaller size prototypes. They're powered by a 1340cc engine. They make about 226 horsepower. You say, well, that's not very much, but they only weigh 570 kilograms. A 6-speed sequential gearbox, paddle shift, 4-pot calipers, vented discs, so lots of brake, high downforce. That is the key. A really big front splitter, a big rear wing that really plants these cars, especially at speed. The harder you push them, the better they will perform. And a side note too, no power steering for these drivers. They have to wrestle these cars. And as you mentioned, the Masters class and the overall championship, there's no difference in cars. The only difference is the age of the driver. Masters are 40 plus.
40 plus makes you old?
Yeah, apparently. No, it makes you a master. It doesn't make you old.
Holy moly.
Cars lining up 2 by 2 as they enter into turn number 8. So a very quick recon lap. Starting on pole will be the 55 of Caden Goodrich, the 77 of Brady Clapham. And then it's the 12 of Francesco Esposito on the inside of row number 2. And he will start alongside the 7 as they make their way onto the front straightaway, looking at the green flag, and things are underway in the Emzone Radical Cup Canada presented by Michelin.
Great side-by-side battle down into turn number 1. Close quarters racing. The field gets single file as quickly as it can. Turn 2, that is a high-speed blind corner down a hill, so you continue to accelerate.
Now you can see the improvement from the 7 of Tyson Balbosa, and he was one of the vehicles involved in an incident in day number 1, race number 1 here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and now they flash through that speedy drive, puffs of dust, as they work their way up into the braking zone. Turn 5A, some side-by-side. Denny Chalkas with the 22 of Kenny Reedman. Reedman in that Tooth Autosport Shopify backed entry, and he continues to march forward through the field. Again, starting well towards the back. We mentioned driver change. That car was driven by Max Haverkate in race number 1. Kenny Reedman taking over the reins, and the car that Reedman drove in race number 1 is now piloted by Jonathan Woolridge, and that's the number 42 you'll see flash by at times during this race.
Screaming Goat Phils sponsor on that race car.
Well, Max Haverkate is a rookie in the Emzone Radical Cup Canada field, and Screaming Goat Films is going to document his entire journey over the course of the season. So it's a really unique partnership between those two. You saw the film crew here in race number 1 down at the paddock area. So yeah, it's a pretty cool deal.
So top 5 strung out just a little bit. Then we've got some battles deeper in the field, drivers that are coming through from the tail. This is the part of the race where you really get to see what your car's got, how you stack up against the competition, and you start to figure out where you might be able to make that move.
You see at the front of the field, Brady Clapham continues to lead over the 55 of Caden Goodrich. There, it's a good side-by-side battle. That is Jonathan Woolridge in the 42. Took a look on the outside of turn number 5. And again, that's in through 4 as you get into the braking zone of turn 5. That's where there's still a little bit of moisture. It's the down low part, a little bit of a gully there as you head back up the hill into turn number 5. And that's difficult for braking zone. But now he is chasing the number 99 of Steve Westuba, who's a rookie out of Quebec in the Euro Parts Incorporated backed entry. He does have some experience running in regional races, and now Woolridge was a former champion here in the Emzone Radical Cup Canada presented by Michelin. Sweeps to the outside in turn number 8 and will take over that spot. There's a good look at Robert Burgess in the 2. Racing in the overall championship this year. So he is of the age where he can compete in Masters. As a matter of fact, he did last year, finishing runner-up. And now he's stepping up. He's going to run with the young guns and compete for an overall championship over the course of 2025. John Painter, driver from Australia, just in behind him. And problems for the 26 of Demi Chalkas in the Radical Academy entry. So Chalkas down pit lane. Doesn't appear to be any visible damage to that car.
Possibly a flat tire, just the way the wheels were working. It looked like one that had maybe a wobble to it. Demi had a great run yesterday. Solid battles throughout that race.
And in race number 1, it was a very, very wet track. We talked about the damp track here today, but race number 1, there was tire spray all over the place, and it was dicey for some of these drivers. So you can see there's Painter, and now Reedman takes a look at the 39 of Daniel Earl, and Earl finished in the runner-up position in the Masters class yesterday. Jack Latham in the 5 car leads the Masters Championship right now. John Painter in the 9, currently 2nd, and the Masters class, Daniel Earl sitting in 3rd spot in the Masters class.
Reedman was driving, of course, the 42 machine yesterday, but it looked so loose. This car looks blended to the racetrack for him. Some of that will be track conditions, some of that would be set up of the race car, but it looks to me as though this is much more drivable for him.
Well, he started shotgun on the field. He must be happy with it because he is now up to 9th spot on the racetrack in the overall. There's Daniel Earl giving him a point, telling him, I will give you that lane on the inside of turn number 4. He knows that the 22 is quicker, and he knows as well they're not racing in the same class. Daniel Earl in Masters, Kenny Reedman in the overall, so there's no point in holding him up any longer.
And he might also know, I don't want to race side-by-sides or turn 8 again. That is unnerving.
Yeah, it is. As we take a look at the battle for top spot, and these two picking up where they left off in race number 1. Brady Clapham continues to lead Caden Goodrich. Goodrich just put down the fastest lap of the race the last time by, as they continue to be covered by less than a second at the front of the field, that time underneath the flag stand. So Caden Goodrich coming on strong here in trying to keep up to the 77, but also trying to find a way by. I mean, there's been no problem with matching the speed of the 77. It's just a matter of finding that opening to make a move.
There were some big swings in yesterday's race. Clapham would have the fastest lap one lap, then the next lap is Goodrich with the fastest lap. And I mean, big differences. You're talking 3/4 tenths of a second swings. So as long as you're close, as long as you're this close, you're in the game.
Let's take a short break now. You're watching the Emzone Radical Cup from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. This race broadcast is brought to you by Emzone, the title sponsor of the Emzone Radical Cup Canada. By Braden Motorsport, the official trackside tire support and service provider for FEL Motorsports. The Emzone Radical Cup Canada is brought to you by Michelin, the presenting partner of FEL Motorsports. By FEL Drives, we create memorable experiences. The FEL Motorsports Nitro Center is brought to you by Purity Gas, the official nitrogen supplier for FEL Motorsports. And the track is fairly dry right now. It's not quite at peak condition because the temperature is down as well. So the surface temperature is a little bit lower comparing to the track record during race time was 120.021. That was put in by Jake Houghton back in 2023. They're now turning laps around 122. So they're about 2 seconds off the pace, which is not really surprising given the conditions. As you see Reedman tucked in the draft, and there goes Robert Burgess. A quick look at the mirrors, and again, recognizing the fact that Kenny Reedman is going to be putting pressure in turn number 8 and yields that lane so they don't go side by side through there once again.
Now let's see what kind of gap Reedman can put on here. Is this the end of his journey?
Well, we'll take a look at how far Robert Burgess was back. So Reedman is about 17 seconds back from your race leader. So he does have a lot of gap to make up. Still just 7.5 minutes into this one. The next one on Kenny Reedman's pecking order will be Jake Latham. And that is in the 5th spot. And again, Latham is currently your race leader in the Masters class. So if we look at the Masters Championship, it's Jake Latham, followed by John Painter and Daniel Earl. Overall, Brady Clapham, Caden Goodrich, and Tyson Balbosa. Tyson Balbosa, a rookie here in 2025, driving for Eclectic Motorsport. That's easy for me to say. Eclectic Motorsports. As they've switched up their driver roster here in 2025 with Francesco Esposito and Tyson Balbosa behind the wheel. There's a good look at the other driver, Francesco Esposito. And actually, Balbosa has managed to get around him 3rd overall on the racetrack. So that's a change of position right now as Balbosa goes through and into a podium position, knocking down his teammate. Again, the 7 car had about, 3 turns of a lap in race number 1 before making contact and suffering some damage. The crew did work tirelessly over the course of the day, yesterday into the night, getting that car repaired and put back together. But the damage was in the front end, which is, it always creates questions. You don't know if you have it back completely right, how the feel is going to be. Obviously, Balbosa very, very happy with it.
You have to have a lot of trust in that race car to go out there and do what these drivers do, particularly on this racetrack. They've done a great job so far. They've got a lot of faith in the mechanics that are working on these machines.
And Balbosa is no stranger to these vehicles. He has raced in regional racing in the Radicals and also has done some significant open wheel racing as well. So he's no stranger to the facility and no stranger to these cars. So as soon as they did get it fixed, you knew that the driver of the 7 was going to be quick and going to be in the mix here today. Still, Brady Clapham continues to lead by just over a second over Caden Goodrich, and the battle that we've been watching on our screen was for 3rd spot. Tyson Balbosa and Francesco Esposito. There is your race leader in the Masters class, Jake Latham. And Latham is looking into his mirrors as he enters into turn number 1. There's the Shopify back number 22 of Kenny Reedman. And that is filling the mirrors very, very quickly.
Yeah, Reedman turned some great laps out there. He was 17 seconds back, actually losing ground to the race leader, but gaining ground on some of the competitors.
Yeah, he'll be able to stiff the draft from the 5 car down the Andretti straightaway. Very important in these cars for that straight line speed. You have all of that aero push holding these cars down on their Michelin tires, just planting them all the way around the racetrack. And then you get that draft down the straightaway, and it just gives you almost like a turbo boost as you're playing video games as a youngster. And that's what you need to help yourself make these passes as Reedman tucks right up underneath the 5 down the Andretti straightaway.
I wonder if Latham, no, there's going to be no arm out the cockpit telling him where to go.
Now, Reedman's just going to do this, a big-time flex on the inside of turn number 8. He will have the racing line. And again, turn number 8 for these drivers, to give you an idea of just how well they do stick on the racetrack, is turn number 8 is nearly a flat-out corner for them. Turn 1's flat out. Turn 2 is pretty much flat out. Turn 3 is a bit of a lift. 4 flat out once again. So
how do you coach nearly flat out? Have a look at the replay. Reedman looking to the right side on the straightaway to make that pass. But how do you coach that? Not quite flat out, nearly flat out.
It's just a little bit of a breath, and you have to trust your backside as Demi Chalkas continues with some issues on that Radical Academy number 26, but very much aware of the drivers around her as she points Brady Clapham by. Look at Caden Goodrich, though. He's going to take some draft to that 26 down the Andretti straightaway. He's still trying to close the gap on your race leader, Brady Clapham. Again, it was 2 seconds the last time they crossed the stripe. It looks a little bit tighter this time as Caden Goodrich was able to catch the draft of Demi Chalkas, and Chalkas obviously not having the day that she was hoping for, coming out of the GT4s, racing both here in Canada, down in the U.S. Caden Goodrich, as a matter of fact, raced GT4s last year, picking up a win here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Let's take a short break now. You're watching the Emzone Radical Cup from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And welcome back to Emzone Radical Racing from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
What a fun schedule they have this season. The Emzone Radicals, couple of races here at CTMP, which are always showcase events. The Toronto Indy, Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières, Calabogie.
It's all the marquee events in Canada that these drivers will be involved in. And there you see a swap of position for 3rd overall as Esposito has managed to get around his teammates. 12 and 7 swapping spots. Esposito goes to 3rd overall. Barbosa will drop down in the Purity Gas number 7 into 4th overall. And again, just working their way around the 26 of Demi Chalkas. And Chalkas is aware, gives lanes, and just sort of caught the 7 out in the wrong spot. And Esposito goes around now. Barbosa will look to the outside of turn number 8.
I'm not sure if that was an attempt to pass or just a little bit of a flex, get them looking in their mirror some.
Could very well be. You see the yellow rookie stripe on the back of the 12 car. Francesco Esposito coming out of the karting ranks, the 2023 Canadian Rotax Senior Karting Champion, showed yesterday, racing in the rain or wet conditions, that he's very comfortable behind the wheel of these Emzone Radical Cup Canada presented by Michelin race cars. And now getting a good feel for it in the mostly dry conditions as he opens up a bit of a gap now on the 7.
And that'll change, that'll come, that'll go. Amazing to me how much these laps swing one way or the other, lap after lap. Look at all the flags being flown through the campsite. That looks pretty cool.
Does indeed. And we talk about the Michelin tires that these cars are on. They are fairly robust. You can really punish them for a long period of time. They're not going to drop off, like you're not going to wear them out completely over the course of this race. Of course, these vehicles are fairly light, but they do heat up. And if you attack hard with them for a long period of time, then the drivers will start to feel their performance drop off. So the drivers do have to be aware of how hard they push and for how long, and try and protect those tires to make them last this entire distance.
Continue to watch this battle for the 3rd spot. Esposito has it. Barbosa trying to keep pace.
Look at Kenny Reedman, though. He is coming And Reedman is putting in laps that are almost about 0.8 of a second quicker than both Francesco Esposito and Tyson Balboza. As those two started paying attention to each other, Kenny Reedman, with open air in front of him, started laying down consistent laps. As here you have the 44 of Cedric O'Hayan and the 99 of Steve Westuba. They're battling together from different teams, but nearly identical liveries. O'Hayan finishing on the podium in the Masters class in race number 1 after saying, "I've never driven in the rain, period, in a Radical Cup Canada car." He took to it very, very well, and he said it was just all about being patient and not pushing that car too hard. But he's in a pretty good dice right here as we take a look at where they are in the running order. That's the battle for 12th and 13th.
Unless I'm mistaken, Dave, nobody practices in the rain.
Yeah, I think you'd have to be a little crazy to practice in the rain.
Generally, the only experience you're going to get is if you're forced to do it in a race condition. And of course, as you gain more experience, you eventually get that. But I don't know that anyone sets out and says, we are going to test in the rain because you need experience.
No, it's true. So you get that experience just based on your previous classes of what you've been doing. You've run go-karts in the rain. You could run Formula 1600s maybe in the rain, and that'll give you that race craft, and then you have to apply it to these Emzone Radical Cup Canada presented by Michelin race cars. There's your race leader overall. The Emzone backed entry, that's the 77 of Brady Clapham, who now has about a 2-second gap over the second place runner, Caden Goodrich. Actually, it's about a 2.5 second the last time they crossed the stripe. But Esposito, Balboza, and Reedman are getting fairly close to each other in that battle for the final podium spot here in the overall championship. So Brady Clapham is 1 for 1 so far here in 2025. And there is your race leader in the Masters class. That is the 5 of Jake Latham. John Painter is running in second in the Masters class, and less than a second back, half a second. And actually, there's Daniel Earl. So third place, top 3 in the Masters class, all covered by a blanket. Here down the Andretti straightaway and headed towards turn number 8.
You don't see anybody waving anybody else past. Now we're in the same division. There aren't going to be any graces given here. Just earn what you get. 3 cars within about 10 car lengths of each other, which is tight for this class.
And now you can see Daniel Earl picking up some ground coming off of turn number 10. So he'll be able to get the draft down the front straightaway into turn number 1. As we mentioned, that's not a great passing opportunity for these cars. You have to get the drive off of 10 to get up alongside, but you're not going to outbrake somebody because you don't brake in turn number 1. Turn 3 might present an opportunity as you see a couple of different lines being played out there from your leader of the Masters class, the 5 of Latham and the 9 of Painter. So Painter tucking it down a little bit lower, and Latham trying to keep that momentum up. Here's still a dice for third spot, the 12 of Esposito and the 7 of Balboza as they go nose to tail into turn number 8. Again, teammates battling for the final step on the podium.
Well, there's 2 teammates doing that battle, but they're about to have someone who is not their teammate trying to knock them off that third step.
This is going to be great, though, because I'm pretty sure this one's going to go to the wire as far as the lead in the Masters class, as Painter in no hurry to get by one of the American drivers in Jack Latham. And you can tell the nationality of these drivers based on the side of the wing on the rear end of these cars. You see Australia for John Painter. You see the U.S. flag for Jack Latham in the 5 car, and the Canadian flag for Daniel Earl in that black and green number 39. The top 3 all from 3 different countries, but battling it out here for a podium at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as part of the Castrol Victoria Day SpeedFest. And we thank you very much for joining us. I'm Dave Bradley. Joined with me in the booth is Adam Ross. And happy to bring you all the action here today, and there is action aplenty.
There certainly is. Again, following this Masters battle, that's the entire podium there racing nose to tail.
So Kenny Reedman now laying down the fastest lap of the race, a 1:21.1. That is about 0.3 of a second quicker than your race leader, Brady Clapham. Now, Clapham doesn't have to push as hard. He's got about a 2.5-second gap at the front, so he can ease off a little bit and save those Michelin tires in the event that he is pressured towards the end of this one. But Kenny Reedman now 5th overall and trying to close the gap on 4th place Tyson Barbosa and Francesco Esposito. And we can tell you now about 2 seconds back from Tyson Barbosa. So, yeah, he's coming.
With the draft, that could be 1 lap, right? You get to that draft on the straightaway, that's going to make up a huge difference.
And you can see it. Yeah, there you go. That's about 2 seconds is gone for the 22 of Kenny Reedman. Now he's in the shadow of 4th place Tyson Barbosa. Dives to the inside of turn number 4. Saw that real estate disappear. Moves to the outside. He'll cut back down on the inside exit of 5B. And onto the Andretti straightaway. They'll drag race side by side as Barbosa not giving up. He'll come back strong and they will go. But look at where the 22 is. He's tucked up in behind the 12. He'll get the benefit of the draft down the Andretti straightaway.
I'm actually surprised that the leader of that pack, Esposito, isn't trying to pull along Barbosa instead of Reedman.
No, he might not have been aware. He might not have looked at his mirrors and thought about it because he did pull back out on the entrance to turn number 8. Let's take a short break now. You're watching the Emzone Radical Cup from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And welcome back to Emzone Radical Racing from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Getting towards the money laps, it's time to pick up the pace. Is fatigue a fact?
Could very well be. We talked about these cars not having power steering, and if you think about the speeds that they're carrying through turn 8, turn 2 down the hill there, you have to hang on to these cars and you have to hang on tight. You don't get the benefit of any sort of extended caution periods to take a break, stretch your arms. So yeah, arm pump becomes an issue. Definitely fatigue in your shoulders and back, and now you have to throw in a little bit of moisture as we're seeing some dots show up on some of the cameras around this facility.
You noticed that too, did you?
I did. Doesn't take long to wet this track as Clapham once again moving around the lap far of Demi Chalkis, and he'll have that battle just in ahead. The 44 of Cedric O'Hayan is a rookie in the Masters class, finishing on the podium, and he's in that dice with Steve Westuba. And that's just ahead of your race leader. Might even, Brady Clapham might even catch them as he heads down the straightaway this time.
Well, we'll find out. Once you get that draft, so your closing rate is one thing, then you hit the draft, your closing rate basically doubles. Like it just sucks you right in.
You see Clapham managed to get around the 26. Caden Goodrich did dive to the inside of Demi Chalkis as well, so not picking up the draft this time. Clapham is about 3 seconds adrift of your race leader. The last time they crossed the stripe, it looks to be that stayed fairly consistent for this lap, but it could change as Clapham comes into some heavier lap traffic. O'Hayan does the right thing and pulls to the inside, lets the leader go by into turn number 1. We'll see if Steve Westuba does the same thing, driver out of Quebec, as he'll be watching his mirrors and see that M zone back to number 77 start filling it into turn number 3. And yes, Westuba does yield that inside lanes, but again, we're seeing that moisture on some of the camera lenses in through turn number 3 especially.
It's your imagination.
Well, it's going to take a long time. Now that the tires are up to temperature, it will take a little bit of time for the track to be affected and the lap times to really start tumbling down. I mean, they've stayed pretty consistent up until this point. So even if we do see a little bit of that Irish mist, it's not going to really affect things too much.
Between the track temperature and the stiff breeze blowing today, there's a lot of factors that'll help keep this track very raceable. Now we'll see as Goodrich tries to get a draft up that back straightaway, seeing the leader drift further and further away out front of his race car.
I'll give you an update, too, on the battle for third, fourth, and fifth. Esposito still has it. Reedman has managed to get around Tyson Barbosa. And there is Reedman now moving to the outside, looking for that final step on the podium. And Reedman, the defending class champion, will have to yield that spot on the outside of turn number 8. Thought he had a big enough head of steam to use that momentum on the outside. Did not, as he'll tuck it behind. And there's a car around here on the front straightaway. As they flash by, it's still just a local caution. And that is the 41 of Hamish Miller, a rookie in the Masters class.
Where are we at for time?
And this one is going to be pretty close. I believe we're just about, I think we're at, actually, I'm looking at it, 26 minutes in. So we still have a little bit of time left, but it's a matter of if he can get that car started. He does. It's moving, but now he's looking for a gap and hoping to get some direction from the corner marshals. And
There he goes.
He gets it looped back around. A hearty wave of the yellow flag at turn number 10 to one of the cars that was coming by. That is the 3 car driven by Lang Shu, another one of the Masters entries. So we stay full course green, which is great news because we didn't want to see that field start to close up, or maybe we did.
And rightfully so for Hamish. It was the right thing to do to be very cautious. He can't see over that Castrol wall, so you don't see what's coming. Cars come around that corner, big speed. And it doesn't even become about driver safety. It becomes, I really don't want to mess with someone in this race and cause them an issue.
Kenny Reedman did manage to complete that pass as we're watching Miller try to get that car right at the number 41 on the front straightaway, as he did. Kenny Reedman managed to get around the rookie, the 12 of Francesco Esposito. And now that puts Esposito back into 4th overall. The 7 of Tyson Barbosa in there too, in 5th overall. So those 3 drivers have been fairly tight over the course of this one. We'll take you through the rundown of the Masters class as it sits right now, and that battle has started to settle out a little bit. It's not quite as heated as it once was. John Painter, Jake Latham, and Daniel Earl, the top 3 in the Masters class, are running 6th, 7th, and 8th on the racetrack right now. But there is your overall race leader, and he has been there since nearly the drop of the green. The 77 of Brady Clapham in top spot, now almost 5 seconds ahead of 55 of Caden Goodrich. And the 77 actually to take the lead in race number 1 in the wet conditions. He did it on the outside of turn number 3. So Brady Clapham is he showed his bravery in a very, very wet trackside opening, and that's where he made that key pass to win race number 1. This one has gone a lot smoother for the driver, the Emzone number 77, as he continues to cruise. There's your second place driver, the 55 of Caden Goodrich, and that's exactly the way they finished in race number 1. The 77, top step of the podium, the 55. Right behind him in second spot, Francesco Esposito picked up 3rd, and Esposito having still a very good run inside the top 5 here. But Kenny Reedman has now managed to get around. Reedman has 17 seconds to try and catch your race leader. He has about 13 seconds to try and catch the 55 of King Goodrich, but that's going to get a little bit slimmer right now as Goodrich continues to battle with the lap car of Lang Shu in the 3. Does get around in turn number 10 and heads down the front straightaway. But again, the laps continue to tick down. More importantly, the clock continues to tick down. We're now over 30 minutes completed here in the Emzone Radical Cup Canada presented by Michelin. And welcome back to Emzone Radical Racing from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
The lead is growing for Clapham, turning some very pretty laps out there, so smooth. Goodrich was able to keep pace for 25 minutes. He had him in his sight. He was within never further back than 20 car lengths or so. But just the last few minutes of this race, there's really been some separation.
As far as their best time on track goes, they almost mirrored each other. There's about 0.3 of a second between Clapham and Caden Goodrich as your third place driver, Reedman, comes into that heavy lap traffic. Steve Westuba found him in the mirror, gave him some spot on the exit of turn number 5 and onto the Andretti straightaway. Now Reedman will get the benefit of the draft, but you can see the gap opened up now between Reedman and Francesco Esposito in 3rd and 4th. Reedman sandwiched in between a couple of lockdown cars. Cedric O'Hayan in the 44 just ahead. And it looks like he will stay ahead in through turn number 8. So likely Reedman will try to make a move here into turn number 10 as he comes around our position. And that's exactly what he does.
Sweeps to the outside in turn 9, gives him the preferred groove through turn 10, and he'll squeak by that slower traffic.
It's interesting because Kenny Reedman is working as a technical coordinator with the Radical Cup Canada Championship, but he's also working as a race coach for Max Havercape. What he's doing now, he's also working as a race coach for Francesco Esposito, for Cedric O'Hayan, who are following him.
Like it or not.
Exactly. He's essentially teaching them the fastest racing line. Where's a good spot to pass? How do you set up that pass? If the drivers are smart, they're watching exactly what he does and then using that knowledge when the time comes.
So let's see what they've learned at the wow.
O'Hayan way up to the outside, has to go to the runoff in turn 5. He'll lose that spot to the 99 of Steve Westuba as a couple of the cars go by. The faster cars in Esposito and Tyson Barbosa managed to get around the 44 of O'Hayan, but a big moment there for that driver as he manages to hang on, keep it off the tire wall, but way up into the runoff area in turn number 5.
We talk about the great quality of the tires on these race cars. Depending on the balance of the car, there does come a point when the tires give up. There comes a point when they get to a certain temperature that, yep, you got all the performance out of me you're going to get. It's time for you to back it down.
Steve,
maybe what happened to O'Hayan there.
Steve Westuba is finding that too. You saw him do a big slide through turn number 9 as he continues to push those Michelin tires to the edge of their limits as Clapham continues comfortably out in front, now 7 seconds ahead of Caden Goodrich. And the clock continues to tick down for Kenny Reedman, who tries to catch the 55, but looks like at 11 seconds further adrift. It's going to be too little too late. Coming from the back, the driver, the 22, sitting in 3rd spot, but it's likely that's where his march is going to end. We say likely because anything can happen.
You just never know. But what a great spirited drive that was to get through the pack. He never once looked like he was racing in any kind of desperation, just aggressively making his moves.
There you can see Esposito has managed to open up a gap. So Esposito has cut through lap traffic a little bit cleaner than Tyson Barbosa, so he has some comfortable airspace behind him and not pressured for the 4th position that he currently rides in. Barbosa just a little bit further back as he didn't get through lap cars quite as quickly as the driver of the 12. There you can see Reedman motioning to, I believe, his crew as on the front straightaway because he wasn't pointing to anybody. Could have been tearing off one of the tear-offs to get a clean visor strip. You have to be careful where you dump that off because the air intake for these cars just behind the driver's head. So you have to be aware of the plastic. If you've never been in a race car, you've never had a tear off before, it's essentially a plastic strip on your visor, and you can pull it off, and it gives you clean vision. But now what do you do with it? You can't just let it go because it gets sucked into the engine. You've got big problems, so you have to be aware of which side to put it out.
Never thought of that.
That's Jonathan Woolridge, the 42 car that was piloted by Kenny Reedman yesterday. So it looks like issues mechanically for the 42, as Woolridge was up inside the top 10, but had started to drop back just a little bit, losing a spot to Robert Burgess. And now down pit lane, so he'll continue to tumble down the running order. As a matter of fact, Woolridge was one of the last car one lap down. Well, he was on the lead lap, but now he's a lap down because he's on pit lane. There is your overall race leader, though, Brady Clapham, was consistently clicked off quick laps, and you could just see second place coming to the top of your frame that time by, but Clapham eases it through 5, and now he doesn't have to push for the remainder of this race. He can just essentially cruise his way down the Andretti straightaway. There you see the blue, orange, and white car at the top of your screen. That is the 55 of Caden Goodrich.
So he can see the leader, but he knows that he's losing ground. Each lap, they're within about 1/10 of a second last lap. Goodrich was faster than Clapham out there last time. He will probably be faster again as Clapham got slowed up a little bit in lap traffic there. But Clapham with a sizable advantage.
That's Lynn Howe in the number 19, just ahead. And Lynn riding out of the Radical Canada tent, along with several other of the more of these cars, I should say. The Radical Canada really has come with huge support for these drivers in this series here in 2025, fielding cars for upwards, I believe, 8 drivers here today, which is absolutely fantastic to see the support.
No, for sure it is, and it guarantees a certain car count you're going to get when you bring half the field to the racetrack.
Getting into the final throws of this one as we're coming up on 38 minutes completed. Goodrich there, still chasing down your race leader. And the 77, Brady Clapham. Again, the difference at the line the last time by was 7.1 seconds. Reedman is 17 seconds back from your race leader, so 10 seconds further adrift from the 55 of Caden Goodrich. And as you look through into the Masters class, we can still tell you that John Painter is leading Jake Latham and Daniel Earl. That has been the top 3 really for the last 15 minutes or so of this race. After John Painter did manage to get around Jake Latham, Daniel Earl unable to mount a challenge. And there you can see the 22 of Kenny Reedman working his way through lap traffic. There is your race leader in the Masters class, the Aussie, the number 9 of John Painter.
Nothing around him, nobody challenging from behind, nothing ahead of him that would cause him any headaches right now.
That is your top 3 on screen right now. Latham in the blue and white, number 5, out of the United States. And Daniel Earl, the Canadian challenger in the Masters class, in the green and black, number 39. But there is the fabulously prepared number 9 of John Painter. And again, the crew had to work to repair that car. He had an incident on lap number 1 in turn number 3 and damage to the rear end of that car. So they did manage to get it fixed, and obviously did a pretty good job getting it fixed.
Got it fixed well.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking at Latham there in that 5 machine.
And here comes Brady Clapham through turn number 10. And I believe he will see the white flag this time by. One more lap to go for your race leader, the 77 of Brady Clapham. And there's Caden Goodrich. We'll see that same white flag indicating 1 to go. And there you can see the gap we talk about the times and how big the gap is getting or how little it is getting, but 8.3 seconds is a time on the track where you can no longer see the driver in front of you in many cases. So there's the leader, and you can't even see second place coming through on turn number 3. Clapham will work his way through turn number 5 for the final time. Again, easing it through a difficult section here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. He'll jump hard onto the loud pedal down the Andretti straightaway. Once again, he's all by himself. No pressure from behind, nothing in front as well. There's your race leader in the Masters class. So John Painter will see the white flag as he comes by the flag stand, this time by one more lap to go for John Painter as he looks for his first ever win in the Emzone Radical Cup Canada presented by Michelin. He's had 14 career starts. He finished 8th in points as your overall race leader comes onto the front straightaway. Win number 2 in 2025 for the 77 of Brady Clapham.
Great performance by Brady Clapham. Caden Goodrich going to come home in that second position. Gave it a great effort, but in the closing laps just wasn't able to keep pace. Kenny Reedman, a hard charge through the field to come home third.
And watching to see the Masters class come through to complete their laps. They were a little bit further behind on the racetrack. There is John Painter down the back straightaway, so he has a lap car in between himself and second place Jake Latham. And Painter will work his way through turn number 8. Latham now has managed to clear that lap traffic, but a little bit too far back to mount a charge into turn number 10 as Painter will see the front straightaway. And for the first time in his Emzone Radical Cup Canada career, he will see the checkered flag first and pick up a race win in the Masters class, followed home by Latham, and Daniel Earl will round out the podium in the Masters class. Let's take a short break now. You're watching the Emzone Radical Cup from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And welcome back to Emzone Radical Racing from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Clapham picks up his second win, this time in a little bit more dominating fashion than in race number 1.
Brady, special weekend here, eh? You got to be exciting, 2 wins in a row.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. It was really good feeling. Absolutely, it was really tough both races, changing conditions, cold, wet. It was definitely a challenge, but definitely feels really good to come away with 2 wins.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Caden Goodrich has 2 second-place finishes in 2025, so nothing to hang his head about by any means. Kenny Reedman with a spirited charge all the way from the back of the pack, coming home in third in the overall championship. We'll take you through the rest of the running order. Francesco Esposito in fourth after finishing on the podium yesterday. Tyson Balbosa in 5th spot. And then John Painter, your winner of the Masters class, 6th overall.
Big win, eh? What a great way to end the weekend.
Yeah.
Like, I think yesterday you had an early exit, right?
Yeah, I
It was
did.
a lot better day.
Yeah, no, yesterday I just made a little bit of a mistake in the wet and, a little bit of lack of talent, But today was fantastic, my first ever win, so really, really happy. And I only started racing about, 18 months ago, so it feels awesome.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So 5 of Latham and Daniel Earl, 7th and 8th on track, 2nd and 3rd in the Masters class. Robert Burgess and Stephen Westuba round out the top 10. Lang Shu in the 3 car in 11th, Cedric O'Hayan in the 44, Lynn Howe in the 19, then Hamish Miller, Demi Chakas, who had some issues and still soldiered on to finish home in 15th spot. Jonathan Woolridge, also with some mechanical problems on the 42, will round out the 16 finishers here in the Emzone Radical Cup Canada presented by Michelin. This race broadcast is brought to you by Emzone, the title sponsor of the Emzone Radical Cup Canada. by Braden Motorsport, the official trackside tire support and service provider for FEL Motorsports. The Emzone Radical Cup Canada is brought to you by Michelin, the presenting partner of FEL Motorsports. By FEL Drives, we create memorable experiences. The FEL Motorsports Nitro Center is brought to you by Purity Gas, the official nitrogen supplier for FEL Motorsports. Another race in the books and an exciting one. Again, for Adam Ross, I'm Dave Bradley. We thank you very much for joining us here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.